Okay, guys, welcome to URBONUS podcast. We don't have any host today. The first and main host, Donatas, and the second host, Gytis, they are on a trip to United States to visit our NBA players there. So there will be some content later. Today, it's only two of us, Augustas and Rytis, to talk about the main EuroLeague stuff, and we're going to start talking about Panathinaikos and Partizan. Yesterday, it was another, I would say, dominant win from Panathinaikos, although the final score does not necessarily reflect on that, because plus 12 after the final whistle, but Partizan scored the last 10 points, I think, without response, and Errick McCollum said that he does not care about that. But anyway, I wanted to start talking about Kendrick Nunn. 5 games of at least 25 points. He is the fourth player to do so in EuroLeague's history. He's averaging 28.8 points on 64% 2 points and 47% threes. A historic run. And only Milos Vujanic, and here thanks to Darius Garuolis, only Milos Vujanic has scored more points, total points, in a 5-game span ever.
Wow.
What can you say about this? What were your reactions just watching and commentating that game yesterday? Because Kendrick Nunn has been spectacular.
Well, first of all, you should have said that Donatas and Gytis are sidelined because so many teams are now facing injury troubles.
Coach decision.
So we also have 2 injured guys on the list. We don't have replacements, so it's like one man down, next man up mentality.
We got to step up.
The usual stuff that the players and the coaches say. And Partizan Panathinaikos, it was a pleasure to comment that game yesterday. Talking about Kendrick Nunn, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Keith Langford, because the OGs will never forget how good Keith Langford was. Prime Keith Langford was a problem in the EuroLeague. He was unplayable, unguardable. Also former Panathinaikos player, but he had great seasons with other teams as well in Europe. So he also had 5 consecutive games with 25 points or more. Yeah. But Kendrick Nunn right now, he's playing in a league of his own. Honestly, he's the best player in the league right now without any competition. I know that if we talk about the MVP award, there's basically a race between him and Vezenkov, and it depends on their individual stats as well as on the team performances. So in the end of the regular season, who knows whether the MVP will go to Piraeus or Oaxaca. But right now, Kendrick Nunn is definitely the best player in this league, because in the first half, Partizan were basically just switching, and there were a couple of switches with Brandon Davis where he just cooked Brandon Davis in the perimeter.
On the first step.
Yeah, and then in the third quarter, they started blitzing him to force him to make more passes, to make him a passer, and that was not a problem for him. He started dishing assists to Yurtseven and the other guys. So he dropped 18 points in the first half. Then they started blitzing him, no problem. He didn't score as much in the second half, but he still had huge impact on the game. And recently, I see more effort on defense as well from him. It's like since that suspension happened.
Yeah, exactly. This is where
since that suspension happened, I think he has that healthy anger in him, and he started playing with more effort, more energy, not only focusing on scoring, doing the other stuff as well, playing defense. And playing 37, 38 minutes per game, I mean, is just insane right now. He's in the league of his own, as I said. You can try to contest his shots. You can guard him however you want to. He can beat you in so many different ways. He can score off the dribble. He can score a mid-range shot, a three-pointer. He can drive to the left, drive to the right, finish through contact. He has that floater. I mean, his bag is so deep. And knowing his size as well, he's like, 195 centimeters in European terms.
You know how it goes with the height of NBA
somewhere
players.
Around that number.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit less.
But still, he's a pretty tall guard.
Pretty tall.
Taller than average, let's say.
Yeah,
so, how can you stop him right now?
I really don't know. I really don't know, because that's what I had written in my notes. Seems like nobody can stop him now. Just two possessions stuck in my mind from yesterday. First one was Brandon Davies going up high in the first half on the pick and roll with Kendrick Nunn. And he's just trying, I don't know whether that's an aggressive switch, whether that's a hedge, because I don't know, because Kendrick Nunn just beats him so fast and he is so smooth with his handles. Like, he just goes between the legs, that aggressive hedge or switch, whatever, is beaten. He goes to his spot in that, elbow area and just makes a shot. And it feels like every shot Kendrick Nunn is taking in this 5-game stretch is about to go in. And he's on that level of confidence right now. The other possession I wanted to mention was that left-handed pass when you were to Yurtseven. Because Partizan did the doubling, the same thing they kind of did to Lonnie Walker when they played against Žalgiris, and Lonnie also had an amazing first half, an amazing game. They started doubling him anywhere on the court. They did the same with Kendrick Nunn yesterday. Didn't really matter. That left-handed pass was just, straight through the couple of guys crowding the passing lane. Bullet pass went straight to Yurtseven's hands. He just had to finish that. That was amazing. And another clip now, I remembered it while talking, when he went behind the back. But it also was so smooth. You just can't do it. Like, it seems like the opponent will reach the ball, but boom, all of a sudden he's no longer in the picture of defending Kendrick Nunn. And then he goes on to score. And the numbers are amazing. I don't remember, and for a good reason, I don't remember anybody averaging almost 30 points in a 5-game span. I wonder how long this is going to continue. But at the same time, Panathinaikos, the whole team has shown insane numbers. Like, their offensive rating in the same 5 games that Kendrick Nunn has exploded, 138 offensive rating per 100 possessions. Like, this number I haven't really seen. NBA all-time record is like 123 for the entire season. Like, so to have 138 for only 5 games is insane, impressive. They're shooting 64% from twos, 47% from free. They're number 1 in offensive rebounds, which tells you about the energy that you just mentioned. They're number 1 in assists and number 4 in turnovers, while playing the slowest pace in the entire league. So that means they are playing slow, but they are playing so efficient, nobody can really stop that. I tried to check whether the opposing teams that they played recently in the last 5 games have lower defensive ratings. It is kind of true, because they played 4 home games and only 1 away. They played Armani, 13th best defense. Baskonia, only 14th best in the last 10 games. Bayern, 16th defense. Virtus, 15th, and Partizan, 14th. So all are below average. But I don't think it takes away anything from how Panathinaikos are playing right now, because they're blowing teams out in 3 quarters.
Yeah.
They remind me last year's Real Madrid in the first half.
The regular season Real Madrid, you mean?
The first half of the regular season with how the way they were playing.
I added the Greek League games to this streak as well. So the winning streak extends to 9 games right now. And if you add those numbers, they dropped 126 points on Aris. Aris is a mediocre Euro Cup team, but okay, still 126 points. Then they dropped 100 on PAO, and just yesterday they should have scored more than 100 as well, but it's just that they stopped in the end of the 4th quarter when the score was 94-71. And they did that yesterday without Suliauskas and Brown. They lost 2 ball handlers. They're playing without the best center in the league right now, Matthias Lesor. And you don't even feel that because of how Nunn is performing. Jerian Grant yesterday was spectacular. He was the MVP of the game. Jedi Osman stepped up. He has a bigger role now. Maybe that gives him a little bit more confidence to do his stuff. He has the ball in his hands a little bit more. And the way they play is really specific, because I think in the middle of the 2nd quarter yesterday, they had around 30 points with 1 assist.
Something
like that. Because Kendrick Nunn plays the ISO game. Jerian Grant has that mid-range pull-up shot, which is so sweet. Yesterday, he was perfect, 5 from 5. They run in transition. They find Cedi Osman, for example. They find Juancho Hernan-Gomez. They get to the free throw line a lot. And there were no assists, but there were a lot of offensive rebounds. In the first half, they had 10 offensive rebounds, and it was just all about energy and effort. And I think that's where Željko Obradović should be disappointed in his team. They didn't match the energy of Panathinaikos fighting for those rebounds. And in the end, it meant a lot. But with 10 offensive rebounds and the way they were playing on offense, plus 11 after 2 quarters didn't feel that bad for Partizan. In my opinion, comparing the quality of basketball on both sides of the court, should have been a 20-point game after the first 2 quarters. It was just an 11-point game. And Partizan actually, to their credit, tried different things in the third quarter. They cut the deficit to 6, and it seemed like they could compete, but they were, I think, killed by the last 2 plays in the third quarter. Yeah. So, huge credit to all those guys because they play with shorter rotation right now. Yesterday, I saw some great stuff from Juancho, from Cedi, Yurtseven in the second half. They found him in the right spots. He's so good playing his back to the basket. I mean, sealing under the rim. He's so good in those things. And Panos Kalaitzakis, 2 big plays in the fourth quarter. The energy guy. We know he can play defense. We know he can run. So
he always has a moment in the second half.
At least something like it could be a fast break, a layup, a corner free, a steal, something big.
But it's always when the team, like when Kalaitzakis makes an impact, Panathinaikos get their spurt.
Yeah, but he didn't start well yesterday. Usually he starts the game really well with some stops, some deflections. Yesterday he didn't start well, but he played his part in the fourth quarter, in my opinion, when he broke the game completely. So they're the EuroLeague champions for a reason, and even with injuries, they still maintain the same quality, which is amazing.
Who can stop them? I mean, with the way Nunn is playing right now, the way the entire team is performing energy-wise, because we often criticize them in the first part of the season. Like Panathinaikos has to improve their energy. They have to care more. They cannot show this NBA regular season type of mentality where you just, give up in some games pretty early. You don't show up. They lost some of those games, but now it seems like that after that Kendrick Nunn suspension, Kendrick Nunn himself has set the tone to the entire team, and everybody else just, it's like he's rallying the troops and everybody else is following.
To answer the question, who can stop them, I think the only thing that can stop them is the Final Four format right now. Because at the end of the day, if you want to win the championship, you're gonna win that. You're gonna have to win that one crucial game, and then another one after that. But the way they're playing right now, I don't see a team that could actually stop them in terms of like stop Kendrick Nunn from scoring or do anything like that. But you can compete. You can definitely compete better than those teams did recently, Partizan, Virtus, or Milano. I mean, they will face
Olympiacos,
stronger opponents like Monaco. Look, they lost against Monaco in Oaxaca, so they will play them away from home. They will have the Greek derby. It's still big games coming up in the future. I mean, and we just started the second part of the regular season, but it's a good point that you said. They look more serious right now, more focused. They value the games more because in the first part of the regular season, they seemed kind of sloppy in some games. Also, the fans yesterday were amazing. I'm not there in the arena, but.
And you're not known as a huge Panathinaikos fan,
right?
Right?
I hate Panathinaikos. Everybody knows that. I'm always against them. I'm biased. Whether I'm paid for that or not, it's a secret.
I've seen you on Twitter.
Yeah.
Even today.
Look, night. I can say good things about Panathinaikos, and they would still start saying, "You clown! What are you talking?" I mean, I'm saying that Kendrick Nunn is the best player in the league right now, and I still get responses that "You clown! You said this and that a year ago, whatever." But what I wanted to say,
I wanted to mention that, like you. It was not a bad take when you said that Wade Baldwin in April, that Wade Baldwin is better and has done more in the EuroLeague than Kendrick Nunn.
More proven at that time.
Yeah. And now from April, during that playoff series, Kendrick Nunn has won. Now he's dominating, and Rytis has no problem of saying that
man,
Kendrick Nunn
he's
is
the
better.
best player. He's proven he's the best. You can put him against any other guard in the league right now. And it's unfair to judge Baldwin, by the way, in the recent years, because, look, the man has so many problems, injury. Let's remember what he did for Maccabi. He was one of the best players in the league at that time. So, look, let's be fair to Wade Baldwin, but at the same time, I don't have a problem to admit that I was wrong with that take. Kendrick Nunn is the better player from the two.
But I wouldn't say you were wrong with that take at the time.
Nah, I mean, it just looked like that. Look, time shows a lot, and players prove podcasters and experts wrong so many times. It's just part of the game. But getting back to the fans, I watch most of their games. They play in Oaxaca, for example, and sometimes I comment those games. Sometimes I just watch them, and you can feel the energy even when you're watching it on television. I think yesterday was the best atmosphere this season in Oaxaca. It felt that way to me.
Probably you're right, because the one game they had, the Greek derby, they were losing.
It wasn't that great.
It wasn't
even
that great.
Ataman criticized the fans a little bit after that game. And yesterday, even during timeouts, they were doing all the chants and the songs, and the building was so loud, and it was a sold-out arena. Obviously, they have a lot of respect for Željko Obradović, so when Partizan comes to town, they want to be there and also to appreciate Željko, but to support their own team at the same time. So credit to them as well. I think it was just a huge night for Panathinaikos, because and Ataman said it perfectly in the post-game interview, summing up that we never complain about the injuries before the game. I say to my guys that we have a good roster, we have enough players, we can win any game, and it's not a problem. But at the same time, when you think about it, they're playing without the best center in the league. They played yesterday without one of the best point guards in the league. Lorenzo Brown, I cannot say that in 2025 he's one of the best point guards also, but he's still an experienced EuroLeague vet.
He's still pretty damn good. I would say
so
that.
They were without 2 point guards, 2 ball handlers, and without the best center, and
crazy.
Still performed in the way they did.
Plus 20 over Partizan.
And Jerry and Grant had more, let's say, offensive responsibilities. Well, it's basically Nunn and Grant, the only 2 ball handlers they had, and Jerry and Grant played almost a perfect basketball game on both sides of the court. He almost had a triple-double.
14, 8, and 7 yesterday, I think. Had 8 early points, 4 of 4 shooting in the first quarter.
And great decision-making. I love when he's patiently playing with his back to the basket, knowing that he has a smaller guard against him. He will see the open man. If he needs to pass the ball, he will pass the ball, but he can just turn around and go for that fadeaway shot, which is so smooth. He's a really smart player, and you can trust him with that bigger role on offense. When Suliauskas and Lorenzo are back, no problem. He will not have the ball as much as his hands. He may not score as much. There's no problem. He will play defense once again.
He didn't miss a shot yesterday.
Yeah.
He shot only 5 times, and he got his PER record in the EuroLeague.
Not only he didn't miss a shot, I don't think there was a bad decision from him. He made all the right
coaches may
trees.
find that, but
Ataman said Jeremy Grant played a perfect game. So if the coach says
perfect means
that he played a perfect
no mistakes. Game, right.
I agree with him.
Anyway, Rytis, I wanted to ask you another thing. This last topic about Panathinaikos. Then we go talking a little bit about Partizan. The center duo. It's been 3 games, I think, since they played with Omer Yurtseven after Lazor's injury. Omer Yurtseven, Venian Gabriel.
Sometimes Mitoglu at 5.
Sometimes Mitoglu at the 5. How would you? I don't know. What's your reaction after these first 3 games? How did they do yesterday? Do you even miss Lazor that much?
I do miss Lazor and his dominance. I mean, now it's a bit different. More scoring power in the perimeter. Yurtseven scores points, but he's a different type of center. I think Venian Gabriel overperformed in his debut game. in Munich. For Yurtseven, it was not such a great game, but Gabriel had 6 blocks. The rim protection was a huge factor in that game. I think he overperformed a little bit, but now we're starting to see that he is a backup center, and it's okay. That's why they signed him. And Yurtseven is now the main center. Yurtseven is really skilled and really crafty. We've talked about that when he was just a backup to Lasor. Now we see that more when he plays 25, 27 minutes. He reads the game well. He has a really soft touch.
Oh, his touch in the paint is something else.
Yes. So he would be a starting center for most teams in Europe.
For how many teams?
For most teams in EuroLeague. I mean, there are some. Okay, Tavares is still starting for Real Madrid. Olympiacos have Milutinov, Fall. That's a stacked lineup. But
after that,
most teams like put him anywhere. Milan, Monaco. He's probably better than Monaco centers. Fener. Come on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he would be a starting center for most teams in the EuroLeague. So I'm not surprised that he can score 20 points.
I'm not surprised at all. Just like you said.
Okay, defensively, he has some issues. Sometimes he's making some mental mistakes. Like yesterday, there were at least a couple of moments where they didn't communicate well, and Partizan scored easy points, easy layups. So he has some, let's say, defensively, Lasor is better, obviously, protecting the paint and doing everything else. Defensively, Lasor is better, but on offense, at the moment, you're getting more or less the same averages.
It seems like you could throw, as a guard on Panathinaikos, it seems like you could throw any pass to Yurtseven. He has great hands to catch the ball. And when he catches the ball, he can finish in a variety of ways. Like he can make a hook shot. He can catch the ball in the air and finish while in the air. You know, there was one situation like this yesterday. Just it also gives your offense an additional extra layer when you have a big guy that is so skillful inside. Talking about defense, for sure, Lasor is missed on that side of the court. And I think Gabriel has done well in his first game, but you can see little miscommunications defensively from him with the other teammates of Panathinaikos. Like they try switching with him, and there was one situation where they tried to switch, but he miscommunicated with Jerry and Grant. Like Grant was telling him to go back, and what Gabriel was like, I'm not on this team for such a long time. You know, I don't know where to go so automatically. So that was a interesting moment. But I wanted to ask you about Partizan as well. What were your impressions? Because to me, it seems like they are kind of up and down team for this entire season, and I'm not sure if their potential is that much higher. To be honest, I know they didn't have a great game yesterday, but they had like a 4-game winning streak in the middle of the season. But now they're like winning a great game, playing a great game, then they're losing to Asvel at home. They're winning against Fener at home, then they're losing without a doubt, you know, to some other team. So what's your impression from yesterday's game about Partizan?
It's hard to judge them in the context of EuroLeague champions because obviously they're not good enough to win in Oaxaca with the way they played yesterday. I mean, Carlik Jones didn't show up yesterday. Frank Ntilikina got 4 quick fouls and he was basically out of rotation. Sterling Brown had an okay game. Defensively, first of all, let's admit they're not a defensive team.
Although we all expected them to be.
But they're not. So if they win, they basically win because of their talent, because of their quality. And the quality is there when you look at those players separately. But since it's a new team, a new roster, I think it's inevitable that they will lack consistency. And that's what I see at the moment from them as a team and from individuals as well. I loved Tyreek Jones' energy and effort yesterday, but man, it was painful to see the man. He missed the layup. He got the rebound. He went for another layup, missed it again. Out of bounds pass, traveling violation, 5 turnovers, 1 from 7 shooting. You see that he has all that energy and all that fighting spirit, but it didn't translate to quality yesterday. Brandon Davis. You never know what you're going to get from Brandon Davis. Sometimes he might just interrupt the play and go for a three-point shot. Sometimes he might be a beast fighting for rebounds and defending, but it doesn't happen in every game. They're not a consistent team. And for example, Dwayne Washington, there's a phenomena that whenever I tune in to see Partizan, Dwayne Washington just seems like a random player they signed from somewhere. But then the games I don't see, he scores 27, 16, and people are talking that he's one of the best six men in the league right now. I think it's just the way it is. Like Isaiah Mike, one day he'll hit some spot-up shots, the other day he'll miss all spot-up shots he's taken. And for example, yesterday an air ball happened. I don't know how to judge Partizan. I think they will compete for the play-in to a certain point of this season. They could maybe grab the 10th seed, but I think the ceiling is pretty low for them. I don't see them going really, really far.
Maybe not low, but not that high, the ceiling. And
the ceiling is play-in, okay? That's my opinion. The ceiling is the play-in and probably the second part of play-in, which is the 9th or 10th spot, but to get that, you need to win more than 50% of your games in this league.
Apart from Sterling Brown yesterday, who had a season-high 23, not many bright spots, I would say. Just too many mistakes, too many miscommunications from Partizan yesterday. And they have 3 of their next 9 games are at home. They're playing 6 away games until the middle of the March, and it's fair to say that their season is going to basically depend on this stretch. They're playing Asvel away, they're playing Milano away, they're playing then Paris, and they have Derby at home, Virtus away, Monaco away, Baskonia at home, Olympiacos away, and Barcelona away.
That's a lot of road games for them, and the next double game week is huge. And I also wanted to mention their young prospect, the player they signed maybe with some hopes. That is Alexei Pokusevski. It looks like he's not ready yet for the men's game, honestly. And I'm not only talking about his lack of physicality or lack of physical strength, but also he seems scared on the court sometimes. I mean, he's so hesitant. Every time he's open in the corner, he doesn't just pull up for the shot. He hesitates a little bit before shooting the ball. I think you cannot hesitate when you're playing at this level. You have to be confident. You have to play strong. And I know you're a young player. There are things to learn, and maybe you need to strengthen your body a little bit. But at the moment, he's getting minutes, but I don't see him being effective during those minutes and helping the team enough. So maybe they trust him as some long-term project. Maybe in 2 years, 3 years' time, he will develop into a solid EuroLeague player and Serbia national team player. But at the moment, honestly, I don't really see him in the rotation as someone who is helping the team. But also, I admit that they don't have too many options in the 4th position.
Exactly, because I think he's playing 14 minutes a game. I think that would not happen if Partizan had a viable option, a starting caliber power forward on that team. He's shooting only 24%, Pokusevski, from the free. He has made only 7 of 29 this season. And as you mentioned, just looks not confident, I would say. And a lot of times you would just see him pump faking, hesitating every time.
Even when there's nowhere,
exactly.
There is nobody contesting him.
Exactly, and to me, he seems that type of player that is always. I hope he improves. I hope, I wish him best. But just to me, he seems as a player who is always 2 years away from being ready. Like about Bruno Caboclo, do you remember what they were telling at the NBA draft?
Next Kevin Durant, the Brazilian Kevin Durant.
The Brazilian Giannis or whatever. KD, but he was also dubbed as like a guy who is 2 years away from being 2 years away. So I think Pokusevski is similar to that because I don't see him progressing physically, And I just don't think his skill is so good, so he can dominate only with that at this level, even on the EuroLeague level.
It would be a different case if he, let's say, starts hitting threes, and if he becomes a 40% 3-point shooter, a pure stretch four type of a player, then you could see the value he brings to the team. But now he doesn't even shoot the open shots. He's hesitating. So yeah, another thing I wanted to address talking about Partizan.
In the NBA, he hasn't been that great either. Career 30% in 4 years.
But you can easily see why NBA teams were interested in him. You can easily see why Oklahoma picked him and developed him, because everybody's looking for those unicorn type of players right now.
The upside, the projection was beautiful, was nice, but it didn't really convert into anything. Anadolu Efes making moves. 2 moves this week. Luka Banchi is the new head coach. Tomislav Mijatovic stepped aside. He is, again, an assistant coach. He remained in the club. PJ Dozier also is expected to sign with Anadolu Efes. But first, let's talk about the head coaching change. Do you think Luka Banchi changes anything drastically at Efes? Do you think... Okay, let's talk about 2 additions. Do you think these 2 changes actually helps a lot Anadolu Efes' chances this season? Because it's quite a lot of coaches they have changed in the last couple of years.
Well, they signed an experienced coach. Maybe it could bring them a positive short-term effect. I know it's hard for any coach to step in during the season and implement his own system, because you don't have practices, you only play games. But he will probably bring some changes, bring some new ideas. But at the same time, I respect Tomislav Mijatovic. I respect the work he did with this team. They're not in a bad shape. They're not in a bad situation in terms of standings. It could be better, but it's not a tragedy. It's a quality team, and Tomislav Mijatovic is obviously dedicated to this organization. He's been in Efes for almost 12 years, I think, and now he's still going to be there. So it's good for Luka Banchi that he will have conversations with Mijatovic, someone who has been here from the first day of the season and sees all the problems, everything that needs to be fixed, needs to be addressed. But also roster changes are just as important, in my opinion. And PJ Dozier had a good season with Partizan. So it's not like you're signing someone from the NBA that has no European experience, and sometimes you don't know what you're going to get. They signed 2 players of that profile, Jordan Nwora and Stanley Johnson. I think Jordan Nwora, even though he's not consistent, I can see him being a successful EuroLeague player in the future. Not sure about Stanley Johnson. He has a strong body. He can play good hard defense, but he's too limited offensively, in my opinion. So PJ Dozier is probably going to be their main small forward, the number 3 on the court, because that's the position where they seem the weakest, because they so often play those 3 guard lineups, which is good against some opponents, but not so great against certain teams that have more size.
It's good that PJ's size allows him to kind of play as a guard, but defend the free position. And so that helps immensely.
We saw last season PJ Dozier, what type of player he is. He can create, he can score, he can do a lot of things on offense, and also he has the tools to improve their defense. So I think if they do sign PJ Dozier, which is not official yet, it will be an important addition. And just as important is the new coach, Luka Banchi. Luka Banchi last year did amazing with Virtus Bologna, at least in the first part of the regular season. They overperformed. They were standing next to Real Madrid. They dropped in the second part of the season. Eventually, they didn't even make the playoffs.
How crazy it is to think about it right now.
Exactly. Also, he's done some wonderful things with Latvian national team. He has a lot of experience. I think it's a safe hire for Efes.
I love the PJ Dozier edition. But you mentioned everything he's going to bring. I think that gives Efes bigger chances of reaching the playoffs and actually making noise there. But to me, the Luka Banchi change, he's not going to change much, I think, because it's the middle of the season. I think it's for the players of Efes to step up, actually, because you had Ataman, you had Erdem Can, you had Mijatovic, and under every coach, I don't think you gave 100% in defense in every game. So if that percentage grows, the games where you are actually playing hard, your intensity goes up. I think that's the biggest key for Efes to make a deep postseason run, because offensively they have everything. They have Shane Larkin, which is not even in a top shape yet because he's just returned after injury. He has played, 4 or 5 games, something like that in the EuroLeague.
Elijah's having a great season.
You have
Bobois, still an elite shooter.
Darius Thompson playing much better, way better than last season. You have Vincent Poirier, Dano Turu under the basket. You have options at the 4th position.
Ercan Osmani is playing a breakthrough season.
Roland Schmitz is still there, maybe not playing to the level of his expectations, but he's still a good player. You add Dozier, and now I think it's, Luka Banchi has the new coach's effect to actually empower those players to give more on defense, but those players themselves have to step up, I think, because it's the third. It would be 4th different coach if they are not playing hard enough. So it's on them, not anymore on the coach, I think, to step up.
Perhaps. Efes is a strange team. There were some weeks when I thought they can easily make it to the playoffs and compete against anybody, but then
they can't sustain that level.
There are a couple of games where I think, is this the best they can do? So they're a strange team. I don't think that Mijatovic did a bad job. I think he did what he could. And he left the team in a normal situation, let's say. It's stable. You win a couple of games in a row and you improve in the standings immediately. So I agree that some players maybe need to step up. But Banchi gets more tools now than he had in Bologna. You have 2 great rim-running bigs, Poirier and Oturu. You can decide which one you're going to choose. Compared to the centers he had in Virtus in the beginning of this season. Virtus is a veteran team. Now Clyburn is out for a long time with injury. Shengelia also is an injury-prone player.
He gets a much younger team.
You're running those sets for Marco Bellinelli, and Bellinelli doesn't get younger. And I think now he's getting a lot more quality, so it's interesting to see what he'll be able to do with that.
5th co-host of URBONUS, Errick McCollum. Today, officially, it was announced that he is joining Fenerbahce. So we have a EuroLeague player that's a co-host of our URBONUS podcast. For a week, he was in the rumor mill because Pinar Karšiaka has some financial issues. So a lot of players are rumored to be sold around the league, like Fats Russell is now, I think, targeted by Barcelona. Not officially yet, but another player of Karšiaka. Anyway, Errick McCollum joins Fener. It's official. It's crazy to think that we are hearing this in 2025 because Errick hasn't been on a EuroLeague team for quite a while, but I'm super happy for him.
Was Efes his last EuroLeague team?
I have to check, but...
Or was it Himki? It probably was Himki.
Probably was Himki.
Yeah, it was Himki.
But just your reactions to this wild, I would say it shows how crazy EuroLeague market and how thin EuroLeague market is for the clubs that are in the middle of the season. You can't take anymore the player from other EuroLeague team. That window has closed. So, and I think let's say, players from NBA or the G League do not have really high big desire to come over to the Europe. So you're turning to veterans, basically.
There are also some players that might be out of contract from China in February or March, but that's a different market. Errick McCollum, a very experienced player, a very smart player, a great scorer. I think he's still averaging something around 20 in FIBA and in the Turkish league. So it's obvious he's taking care of his body and he can still play at a high level. I think for Sharas and for the player himself, it's easier when he has that much experience under different coaches, under different systems in Europe. It will be an easier transition for Errick McCollum than, let's say, it is for Skylar Mays, who's coming from a completely different environment.
Don't even start on that one.
He has his own struggles, and Fenerbahce needed a guard because of all the injuries they have. I'd say they're in a crisis from the first day of the season, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. It all started with Wilbekin's injury, then Baldwin's injuries, plural, followed Žagar's injuries as well. Devon Hall was out for some time. And now when you watch them play, it looks like Marko Guduric is the only trustworthy ball handler they have available. So he definitely needs help. I like the signing, honestly. And I think Errick McCollum understands his situation. He's joining a EuroLeague team with a strict coach like Sharas, with a strict system. He's not going there to average 20. That's not going. It won't be his responsibility to score as much, to shoot as much as he did with Karšiaka. It's going to be different, but with the experience he has, I think it could be a good fit. I think it could be a good fit because you need some different type of a guard that Scotty Wilbekin was supposed to be, and they lost him due to an ACL injury.
I think you just need a little bit of that improvisation on that team in the perimeter, because without Baldwin, you don't have much of that. And Errick can just put the ball in the basket whenever you ask him to do so. And at 37, we all know what type of person he is. He's not going to demand the ball. He's not going to create waves in the locker room. He's actually probably only going to help the locker room, because as much as I've heard, he's always the player that talks the most, especially to the young players on the team, tries to build better chemistry. He's all about the winning. So likable guy that could probably help that locker room as much as he will help on the floor. Just I'm watching Fener's games, and sometimes I just I miss someone just taking the basketball and we see from Kendrick Nunn, just couple of dribbles, bam, gets to his spot, makes a shot. That's what I'm missing from Fener. I understand that's not what Sharas wants often, but you need those buckets sometimes, because you can't live off the system in every single possession. It's not going to happen, and I think Errick, even at 37, can help Fener because they badly need help. The stats tell me that in the last 10 EuroLeague games, they have 17th best offense. 17th best sounds ridiculous. Second worst offense and 4th worst defense. I couldn't believe that Fenerbahce has that the same result defensively as well. But
the only quality performance from them that I saw recently was in the Istanbul derby. Really, really good defense in the second half. Best game of the season for Marko Guduric. He matched his career high in assists. That was a solid game. But that was an exception, because all the other games around that were not great, to say the least. Even yesterday, you can't say they beat Alba Berlin convincingly.
They were close after 3
quarters. It was
a
close game for almost 3.5 quarters. Sorry about that.
Bless you. Okay, I think that's enough about Fener. Another side topic, or let's say 2 side topics, involve Barcelona. They won yesterday against Monaco, but there is a pretty hot seat there with Pennaroya. They have won 6 out of their last 17 games. That's not Barcelona numbers. They're about to miss Copa del Rey for the first time in history. Do you think Barca should replace Pennaroya?
Well, the business of basketball is crazy. It's cruel. I think if they lost yesterday in Monaco, today we would be reading headlines about Pennaroya being sacked. But he won. So maybe that saved him his position, and maybe now he got some more time to fix things. The Copa del Rey situation is unbelievable, honestly. Okay, we've seen Baskonia not qualifying. We've seen Valencia not making it. But Barcelona and Real Madrid, they're always there. And now there's a huge risk that Barca might not make it after they lost the last game against Girona. They lost by 1 point. There's still, I think, 3 or 4 games left until that term. So if they get a couple of wins, they will probably be there as the 7th or 8th seed, but it's not good enough for Barcelona standards.
Even Abrinas publicly said that
yes,
we are not good enough.
Yes, exactly. I don't know if we can blame the coach if changing the head coach will make quick improvements for that team. The roster is not bad.
Maybe a short-term impact, as you mentioned.
Maybe they have a plan to bring Xavi Pascual back eventually. I don't know, maybe from the beginning of the next season. It's strange, like, to see Barcelona in this situation. We were so used to them with Rytis playing in the Final Four, competing for the titles in Spain, and people saying that, well, it's not good enough. They're not winning the EuroLeague. They have Mirotic, they have Nick, they have all Vesely and all these other EuroLeague stars. They're not winning. Now the standards have dropped. So last year with Roger Grimau, it wasn't good enough that they lost the series to Olympiacos. They lost the ACB finals. Okay, so they fired Roger Grimau. They brought in Joan Pennaroya. What are we seeing right now? It's a team that's basically fighting to survive in Endesa to get to the Copa del Rey, and they are somewhere in the mix of the play-in and the playoffs in the EuroLeague. The Final Four is so far away from them. And it all changed in just 1 or 2 years' time.
And remember this summer we were talking about how they saved money on the coach to actually sign Kevin Punter. Do you think that's working out for them? Because I think this team should play better, and I think it's, yes, part of it is on injuries, but part of it is only also on the coach.
Perhaps, I mean, you cannot change the whole roster in January, so the only way you can try to fix things is by changing the head coach. So maybe yesterday Pennaroya won some more time, but if they lose their next couple of games, perhaps the changes will happen. And it's just interesting to see who they would pick as their next coach. Svetislav Pesic?
There was a rumor that Svetislav Pesic was watching Barcelona's game last week in ACB. Only a rumor. Only that he was in the building. But would you think Pesic would fix issues in Barcelona, like short term?
Well, it wouldn't be worse. I mean, like, what do you have to lose? You just sign him till the end of the season, and then you will have time in the summer to look for a new coach. But what I don't like is there's no continuity. There's nothing you can call a project in Barcelona anymore. Because with Rytis, you had a project, a clear way of how they play. It was coach's team. They had their system. They couldn't come over those obstacles in the Final Four. But you were getting those results. You were one of the elite teams, one of the best teams in Europe. And people were just taking for granted that Barca beat Real Madrid in ACB League finals. It's a big win. I mean, to beat the Spanish champions, to beat Real Madrid, it's always a huge achievement. So now, even with this struggling Real Madrid team, in Madrid, they seem so much better than Barca. I mean, come on. It's just that Barcelona is a mess right now, and the mess starts from management. It's not just the players and the coaches, and you see what's happening in the football world, where they cannot register players because of their financial situation. It's a mess, and it translates to the court, obviously. But they do have good players. I do agree with Abrines that these are big names. They have to play much better.
They should be playing much better. And would you say, like, I mean, if not for football money, they're spending so much on buyouts, on contracts, on all that stuff. Like, I mean, Willi is getting like more than $2 million a season. Like, there are so many bad contracts there in Barcelona. And I think if that team would not depend on football money, we would be seeing an entirely different level of taking responsibility of the moves you do in the summer, because that is not how you should run a basketball team, I think. They have made so many bad decisions in the last couple of years after Šaras left, and including the roster selection.
I agree, and I don't know who's to blame. Is it the president or is it Juan Carlos Navarro? You can change.
I don't know.
You can change coaches as much as you want, but if you don't make good decisions in the market, signing players, building the roster, coaches are not miracle workers. They will not do miracles if you don't, let's say, follow their ideas. Usually, the best examples of winning teams is when the ownership or the sports director are working shoulder to shoulder with a head coach. I don't see that in Barca at the moment.
I don't see that. I just see that they're building a team one way, and then they're signing a coach to do the job, and they're like, here, this is the roster. Go do something.
Actually, in January, they were in a much better position with Grimao last year.
Oh,
they didn't even have Kevin Punter.
But you remember they were like second or third, and before the El Clasico that happened, like the first game after New Year, they were rumors that they wanted to fire him. They were second or third in the EuroLeague, if I'm not mistaken. They were high. Now they're in the 9th spot, playing spot somewhere.
Yes, and they're below top 8 in Liga Endesa.
So, one more thing with Barcelona. Terminal 2. Terminal movie, part 2, was filmed last week with Thomas Heurtel. Again, main hero was the same. For those who don't know, Heurtel flew from China to Barcelona thinking he's going to sign with Barca. As soon as he landed, there was a press conference. Somehow, some way, he's not that big of a star. Usually, basketball players in Europe don't get airport interviews at any point of signing with any teams. So that was weird. And because it was even more weird because he did not sign with Barcelona, because Barcelona's president vetoed this contract. So he was left there in the airport without a deal. And I don't know, what were your reactions to this? Because it was so funny to me why it is happening. I mean, it probably tells something about the player because it is happening to him all over again. There has to be something behind the scenes.
Well, it says again a lot about Barca. What mess there is there? Like, there's some people doing things one way, and there's the president who might reject all the ideas. And look, they're desperately trying to sign a guard. They signed Raul Neto. Injury after injury after injury. It seems like Raul Neto is not destined to play in the EuroLeague. And now they needed somebody else. So since Laprovitola's injury, they're looking for players. They're looking. They're not finding anyone. And then there's Thomas Heurtel, former Barcelona player, who probably didn't have great relationship with Šaras, who was left at the airport. The contract was terminated. And then they went separate ways. I think Barca is a mess, but at the same time, I don't have too much empathy for Thomas Heurtel. I cannot empathize with the player who signed in Russia during the war. So if he was happy to play in Zenit, maybe go back and play there in Zenit. I don't care. So I don't care that much about Thomas Heurtel, honestly, but from Barcelona side, it's just a bad image.
Yeah, really don't have anything to add on this situation. That just how weird it was once again. Really a soap opera we haven't really had in Europe or in the EuroLeague. Soap opera is going in the NBA as well. Jimmy Butler has requested a trade, but Donatas had this idea that we should think of a EuroLeague star, which should ask for a trade. I mean, he's not asking for a trade because trades do not happen in Europe. But a EuroLeague star who should be traded, who should ask for a trade, and everybody would benefit. The player, the team, and the receiving team would benefit from that. Do you have any particular player in mind? Because I have two players. I think who could be willing to ask for a trade if they were allowed to, and who would benefit from that as well.
Well, Nikola Mirotic doesn't have a EuroLeague title yet, and he's not going to win it with Olimpia Milano.
No?
At least not this season. I would like to see him in a better position to win the EuroLeague. I think he deserves it. He's 33 years old, so it's not like he has that much time, at least as a star player. So Mirotic would be my pick.
I had Serge Ibaka. I know he's not playing to EuroLeague star numbers this season. He's barely getting playing time. He played like 3 minutes.
He's famous. He's a star because he's Serge Ibaka, but as a player, he's not a superstar anymore.
But I think he could help more than he is helping Real Madrid right now. And another player that's a star, good friend of the pod, Chima Moneke. I mean, he seems like a player who is in a losing situation. They're not going to win big in Baskonia. He had that big buyout situation this summer. A lot of teams wanted him. He could help multiple contenders. And I think, Baskonia could benefit by selling him, not letting him go freely, in the summer. So he would be like this, situation in the NBA before trade deadline where you just trade the player to actually get something back before he leaves for free. So I see Chima in kind of a similar situation.
But of course, it's hypothetical because now you cannot switch EuroLeague teams anymore. But I agree. I agree that I would like to see him competing for the playoffs at least. I know they were in the playoffs last season, and it's frustrating that he couldn't play because of an injury. At the same time, Chima Moneke is a really specific player that probably will need a specific environment because we remember him in Monaco, since he's not a typical stretch four type of a player that can just wait in the corner and when he gets the ball, he'll shoot. A team that signs him needs to have a clear idea, a plan how they're going to use him. And the coach must want Chima Moneke on his team if they decide to, let's say, pay a buyout to Baskonia and add him to the roster.
What about Tyler Dorsey?
That's a strange situation. Remember last season he was not particularly happy with his role. Now he's getting even less minutes. I mean, for Fener right now, he would play 25 minutes.
I wonder if Charas would be happy to have him this season.
I don't know about that, but the thing is, maybe now he feels better because he has a long-term contract.
Yeah,
it's very important for a player to feel secure about his future. If you're playing on a 1-year contract, every time there's certain insecurities. What happens if I get injured? Now I'm not getting my minutes. My value is decreasing. The agent is saying that maybe there are some teams that were interested in a year ago, they're not interested anymore. If you have a 3-year contract, you feel much better in these situations. But I agree that at the moment, Yurtseven probably made up his mind that he needs Thomas Walkup, Nigel Williams-Goss because of their physicality. Vildosa is playing some minutes. Keenan Evans at some point might be back. So
I mean, there's Shaq McKissick,
the Shaq
Evan
McKissick,
Fournier playing great.
Evan Fournier, yeah. Tyler Dorsey, just a Greek league player, doesn't sound right.
Sounds crazy.
I know he has the Greek passport, which is important for Olympiacos.
I know that might catch you off guard. Where would you see Dorsey going? Like, which team could benefit from signing him? From trading for him in a hypothetical EuroLeague trade scenario. That will not happen, but...
Barcelona.
That's actually a great pick.
Barcelona, yeah.
All right. Last topic for today. Shaq McKissick, in an interview, mentioned that he's surprised there is no Sixth Man of the Year award in Europe. And he said, obviously, I would definitely be up there, probably with Nikola Milutinov. He mentioned his own teammate. And we recently talked how EuroLeague finally fixed the award system with separating finally the regular season MVP and the playoff or Final Four MVP, whatever. I have my own take here, but would you like to see that Sixth-Man award in EuroLeague? How would you feel about it?
If it was there, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but
wouldn't it be too hard?
It's unnecessary, in my opinion, because first of all, the starting lineup in EuroLeague is not as important as it is in NBA.
Exactly.
The starting lineup changes depending on the matchups. One player could be the sixth man one week and he could be a starter next week. Sometimes we've seen so many examples where the best player of the team actually steps in off the bench for better balance. Shane Larkin with Efes, one of the examples. So the sixth man award in Europe, I think it's unnecessary because in the NBA, it's very clear who are the starters and who's coming off the bench. Like right now, it's big news. It's headlines that Chris Finch decided to change his starting lineup in Minnesota to put Dante DiVincenzo in and Mike Conley out. It's never news in Europe if a coach decides to, let's say, start with one guard and put the other guard on the bench because next week it might be a different story.
There is no drama.
There is no drama. Like, Kostas Lukas, a sixth man? Well, he's going to play the most important minutes on the court, but he's not going to be in the starting lineup. Who cares? And also, I agree with Shaq McKissick that this season, he's probably one of the best guys, if not the best, coming off the bench. And sometimes he steps into the rotation with 15 minutes played already in the middle of the second quarter. There would be some competition, definitely.
There are some guys that would like to have a word with Shaq and you right now because...
I said one of the best.
Yeah.
I didn't say that he's the clear front runner for such an award.
To me, it's not necessary because there's no such a big gap between starters and bench players in Europe. NBA, there is a clear... Between stars and bench players, I would say. NBA, first, second, third, four option is clear, and it is a big gap. So it is normal to have six men in the NBA. In Europe, I don't really see the importance of that because, for example, Nadir Hifi, no game started. He's a six man, but he's probably second or third best player on Paris team. Elio Kobo, 18 games played, 0 games started. He's what? Second best player on the team?
Maybe judging on this season, but
just judging this season.
In the hierarchy, he's not probably the second man.
Let's see more examples. Sylvain Francisco, only 4 games started out of 19. He is arguably first or second best player on Žalgiris team.
Oh, yes. I forgot that he's actually not starting.
And there are more examples. Karlik Jones, 20 games or 19, half of them started from the bench. He's arguably the best player on Partizan team. All of these guys are playing when the clutch minutes. And there's even more, like Kostas Lukas. Okay, he's not the best player, but he's up there, like second best. We see a lot of examples of second best or third best player on the team actually being the sixth man in Europe. And that would make this award so confusing, I think.
You would need to establish a criteria, like a player who didn't start for more than 50% of the game games they played would be eligible for the sixth man award. But again, as I said, I think it's unnecessary. Okay, but if the players want it, if let's say Elpa would push this to EuroLeague, push this idea, and they add this award, I wouldn't have a problem with that. If the players feel like they need it, they want it, let's have that. I don't have a problem. I just think it's unnecessary.
And the awards in Europe don't mean much to players' contracts.
That's true. It's just for their egos, mainly.
Exactly.
Even the MVP. And in NBA, if you make the All-NBA first, second, third team, it brings you more money. If you're the MVP, it brings you more money. If you're Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, all these things add to your contract.
And very last topic, our colleague Horatio Kauki, he had a article, EuroLeague players that could go to the NBA, stars eyeing the jump in 2025. It's available only for BN Plus members. So being a BN Plus member, you actually get a lot of great articles like this, plus Give Me Control articles or video breakdowns of Todd Warnick, referee expert, just breaking down all the mistakes that happen in the EuroLeague. And not only, you get Q&A podcasts, a lot of other great stuff, Donatas insights about transfers. So make sure to become a BN Plus member to see this article and all the players. But my question would be to you, which of these players, Rytis, you would actually see the most in the NBA context? And the players that you can find and read more in this text are Lonnie Walker, Kendrick Nunn, Isaiah Cordinier, Janan Musa, Alpha Diallo, Tariq Beberovic, Nadir Hifi. Which of these guys you would see the most fitting in the NBA and why? Or maybe someone else.
Well, easily Lonnie Walker and Kendrick Nunn. They had roles on NBA teams already, and they're still pretty young. And they are NBA material. They have everything, the size, the physicality, the scoring, the versatility. Kendrick Nunn dropped out of the NBA because he had injuries. He didn't play for the whole 21-22 season. In the 22-23 season, he didn't have a big role for the Lakers. He was sent to Washington, didn't play as much there, so he kind of signed in Europe as an alternative option, which eventually turned out to be a great decision for his career because he earns big money in Athens. He's the best player in the league. The fans love him. He feels happy. It wouldn't surprise me if he extends his contract.
And there are rumors that
about the 3-year deal.
Yeah, that Yiannakopoulos wants to offer him an extension until 2028.
But at the same time, now he looks in his best shape. He looks just as good as he did in his rookie season for Miami Heat. And now he has even more experience, which means he's smarter. He makes better decisions. So I would like to see him in the NBA, but with a big role. Like if some team would trust him, not only money-wise, but also you're going to be our starting point guard. If he would sign for some team just to be a backup, rather be a star in the EuroLeague. And Lonnie Walker is a difference, a bit of a different story.
But before going to Lonnie, do you think Kendrick Nunn can actually... Could some NBA team sign him to be a starting point guard?
Yes, why not? I mean, he has the size. It's just that maybe when we're talking about the teams that are contenders in the NBA, well, the starting point guard has to be a superstar. But we saw him in the Miami Heat. They made it to the NBA Finals. I know in the playoffs, maybe his minutes dropped because Spoelstra opted for the more experienced Goran Dragic. But that was a good team. They were contenders, and he had a role. It was his rookie year. So why not right now?
He seems on the top of the shape physically.
Look, let's pick Dallas. Okay, they have a Doncic-Kyrie duo. Amazing, right? Both are injured right now. They're in trouble. But if, let's say, Kyrie Irving goes somewhere else, and you, as the Dallas Mavericks, cannot afford to sign an all-star guard, a free agent, there are no players available. put Kendrick Nunn next to Luka Banchi as a secondary ball handler. It could work. Why not? Why not? So I think he has all these qualities, but maybe the NBA GMs are looking at it from a different perspective. And Lonnie Walker, I expect the move even this season until February, until the deadline.
Everybody's talking how he's expecting a bigger contract than NBA teams could offer him this in the next upcoming month. So that is why that move is unlikely. But at the same time, he signed in Europe with a team that gave him that buyout clause, the ability to leave.
Yes.
So either he's expecting that or he really wants and his priority is the NBA. So maybe for example, if a contender wants him this season, I don't know. I don't see him leaving out a deal with a contender, even if it's a short-term deal. The deal he says he doesn't want, but it's a chance to win the NBA. It's a chance to potentially be a role player, a rotation player for that team who is competing for the title. I think it's really hard to turn down.
He could help Boston. He could help Denver. He could help those good teams, being the 8th man on the rotation or the 9th man, but playing some solid minutes. And why I said it's a different story, because Kendrick Nunn needs to run the show. To be who he is right now, Panathinaikos, he needs the ball, he needs to run the show. He will not do that when he plays 15 minutes. Lonnie Walker doesn't necessarily need the ball as much. We saw him in the Lakers. We saw him with the Brooklyn Nets. He's a good spot-up shooter. He can play defense. He can cut. He can run on the fast breaks. So if he joins the Denver Nuggets or the Boston Celtics, he can play solid playoff basketball minutes for those teams without the expectations of being the number 1 or number 2 guy. And from the whole list, the other players that you've mentioned, there are 2 young players who are drafted, Nadir Hifi and Tariq Biberovic, and I think they will make the jump to the NBA eventually. Maybe Hifi will do it even next season. Biberovic said himself that he would like to try himself in the NBA. And look, the NBA teams, they like those shooters, guards with good size. I think Tariq Biberovic is that type of a player. He checks those boxes. And whether he would be successful or not, I'm not so sure right now, but he'll probably get his chance. The rest, Janan Musa, Sasha Vezenkov, they've been there. Vezenkov won't go back after the experience he had in Sacramento. Musa,
he's done.
He's more mature. He's more developed now than he was with the Brooklyn Nets 3 or 4 years ago. But also, you're playing for Real Madrid. Why would you leave that and go somewhere in the NBA where people don't see you as the MVP of the Spanish league or the leader for the Real Madrid? They will see you just as another European somewhere on the roster.
By the way, it's crazy how many players of the 2022-23 Lakers are now playing in Europe. Could you name me just
players in Europe from 2022-23 Lakers?
Yeah, I know you like the NBA grid.
I do.
So it's Nunn, solve those
it's Nunn, Walker, Nunn. Gabriel.
Yeah. There are 2 more at least. 3.
3 more.
Probably those guys did not play big minutes for Lakers that season, but they were in that roster for sure.
Devontae Kaycock?
Maybe. Nope.
No.
You saw one yesterday. You commented that game one yesterday. And he actually had season high. Yesterday.
Sterling Brown?
Sterling
Brown was with, I don't remember him with the Lakers uniform. I remember him playing for the Bucks.
For the Bucks, yeah, for sure. Pat Bev.
Okay. I thought only about EuroLeague players, but EuroCup counts as well. Okay.
Shaquille Harrison. So 6 guys. I mean, the Lakers that season, it seems like they had a football roster, not a basketball roster. From the amount of names I see here. But anyway, nice podcast. I think if you enjoyed it, just make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel if you are new, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.